Hey everyone, and welcome back to Trend Talk Media. I'm Liam.
And I'm Sophie. You know, Liam, it feels like we literally can't escape it. Every single day, there's some new mind-blowing AI thing. It is a full-blown global obsession.
It really is. But today, we're going to look at the shadow side of that obsession. We're diving deep into the psychology of why our society is pouring hundreds of billions into AI, while some of the most basic, fundamental human problems are just being ignored.
So, here's the game plan for today. We're going to start with what the source material calls the absurd mismatch, and you'll see why. Then we'll get into the psychology of ignoring.
Oof. A planet of bystanders. That sounds a little bleak.
It's a heavy concept for sure. But don't worry, we'll end on a much more hopeful note, talking about how we can reframe our future with AI and start making the invisible visible.
All right, let's just jump right into this first part, because to really get what's going on here, you just have to follow the money.
I've got a feeling these numbers are going to be pretty staggering.
Oh, you have no idea.
Okay, so first up, get this. The big tech giants, they're on track to spend $364 billion just in 2025.
Hold on. 364 billion? With a B? In a single year?
In 1 year. And get this, that's just for AI infrastructure. We're talking servers, data centers, the basic plumbing. That's not even the total investment.
Okay, now hold that number in your head for a second, and look at this one.
All right, $4.2 trillion. That's just a massive number. What is that for?
That, Sophie, is the estimated annual funding gap to achieve what the UN calls basic human dignity for every person on this planet. Think food security, clean water, healthcare, education. The shortfall is $4.2 trillion every single year.
Wow. Okay, seeing them side by side like this, it's genuinely ridiculous. How is this even real? We're spending fortunes on developing code while there's a multi-trillion-dollar deficit for human survival.
That is the big question. And the answer, it turns out, isn't really about economics. It's about psychology.
And that brings us right into our next section. The reason this huge gap exists has a lot to do with some fundamental bugs, you could say, in our own human brains.
So you're saying our brains are basically wired to let this happen?
In a way, yeah. We are psychologically programmed to look away from these huge, messy, complicated problems.
So the first major psychological glitch is something called proximity bias.
Okay, so in plain English, what does that mean?
It's pretty simple, actually. We are just hardwired to care more about stuff that feels close and real to us. A new chatbot on your phone feels immediate, it's tangible. The abstract idea of hundreds of millions of people facing hunger on another continent, that just doesn't hit the same way.
And you have to admit, AI companies are masters at playing on this. They put all the benefits, the convenience, the cool factor, the fun, right there, in your hand, on your screen.
Right, but all the costs are hidden. So we see the shiny new app, but we don't see the giant power plant burning fossil fuels somewhere just to keep it running.
Exactly. We don't see the insane amounts of water being used to cool the data centers, or the local communities that have blackouts because of them. It's all completely invisible to us.
So this is basically a giant out-of-sight, out-of-mind problem. The fun, cool stuff feels real, and all the bad stuff, the real human suffering, feels like a line item on a spreadsheet somewhere.
That's a perfect way to describe it. Researchers call it tangibility asymmetry, and it's a super powerful force that's shaping these massive investment decisions. But it's not the only one.
There's also this deep-seated bias we have for something called technological solutionism.
Let me guess, it's way easier to convince ourselves we can invent an app to solve world hunger than it is to actually deal with messy stuff like global inequality?
You absolutely nailed it. It's the ultimate avoidance tactic. It's so much more appealing to try and build a clean, perfect algorithm than it is to try and fix a broken, complicated human system.
And when you put all of this together, it creates this really strange, kind of dangerous dynamic on a planetary scale.
And this is where that planet of bystanders idea comes into play.
Exactly. It's this concept that when a problem is technically everyone's responsibility, it ends up becoming no one's responsibility at all.
Wow, okay, let's just sit with that for a second. When everyone is responsible, no one feels accountable. How does that actually play out here? Well, think about it. The job of solving global poverty is spread so thin across 8 billion people, thousands of companies, hundreds of governments, that no single person, no single CEO feels like it's their job to actually fix it.
It's a classic psychological principle called diffusion of responsibility.
Oh, right. That's the bystander effect. Like when you see something bad happening on the street, but you don't step in because there are other people around and you just figure someone else will do something.
Precisely. Now just imagine that on a global scale. The tech CEO isn't thinking, should I fund AI or should I fund clean water projects? They're thinking, all my competitors are dumping billions into AI, so I have to, or I'm going to be left in the dust.
So it's just one massive industry-wide case of FOMO, fear of missing out. It's a total panic. Everyone is just copying each other because they're terrified of being the one that misses out on the next big thing. That's a huge piece of it, yeah. The source material calls that FOMO a moral anesthetic. In a competitive frenzy like this, rational thought, ethical considerations, they just go right out the window.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of time on the problem, and honestly, it's pretty depressing. I am ready for some solutions. You and me both. And here's where it gets really interesting. We can actually use these same psychological biases to help fix the problem. This isn't about being anti-tech. The future of AI isn't some force of nature that's just happening to us. It's a series of choices that we are all making right now.
And it all starts by changing the fundamental question we're asking. For the last decade, the question has really just been, what can AI do?
But the question we need to ask is, what should AI do? Wow. Just flipping the question like that really changes everything, doesn't it?
It totally reorients the goal. It shifts the entire focus from just pure capability to morality, to purpose.
And that reframing is the bedrock of what's called a pro-social AI framework. It's really built on three main ideas: invoking moral reasoning, demanding that people take other perspectives, and creating direct accountability.
So it's basically a system that forces ethics and accountability back into a process that's just been running on hype and FOMO.
That's it, exactly. It's all about connecting the code that's being written to actual real-world human outcomes.
Okay, so this isn't just some abstract theory. Let's talk practicals. How do we actually do this?
Right. How do we fight back against our own psychological bugs?
The key is to take those same principles and flip them around so they work for us instead of against us. We have to find ways to make all those invisible costs of our choices visible. And here are a few really concrete ways to do that. Shareholder activism can force companies to report on their environmental impact, which suddenly makes an abstract cost very real to their bottom line.
And institutional divestment. That's when big organizations like pension funds or universities pull their money out of companies to send a powerful message, right?
Right. But honestly, the most powerful tool, the one any of us can actually use, might be this last one. Narrative reframing. Whoa. Okay, wait a minute. That fact right there. A single conversation with a chatbot uses up an entire bottle of water. I use those tools every single day. That completely changes how I see it. And see? That is a perfect example. That's narrative reframing in action. You just took a totally abstract, invisible cost, data center water consumption, and you made it personal, concrete, and tangible. That's incredibly powerful. So when you boil it all down, it comes back to this one simple question. This isn't about stopping progress. It's about aiming that incredible progress at the right targets.
Yeah, the big takeaway for me is that this isn't really a technology problem at all. It's a human one. And the same psychological quirks that got us into this mess might just be the very tools we need to get ourselves out.
So we'll leave all of you with that thought to chew on. What problems do you think AI should really be solving? Let us know what you think down in the comments. And for more deep dives like this, make sure to subscribe to Trend Talk Media. Thanks for watching.